The alarm had not sounded in the Galactic Council chambers for 400 years. Today it screamed through every speaker, every corridor, every corner of the massive station that floated in the center of the galaxy. Counselor Thexvara's feathers stood straight up as she rushed into the emergency meeting room. Her wings trembled as she took her seat among the 47 species that made up the council. High Chancellor Vormek sat at the head of the circular table. His reptilian face showed no emotion, but his tail moved slowly from side to side. This was never a good sign. Around the table, representatives whispered to each other in a dozen different languages. Fear hung in the air like smoke. "Show them," Vormek said quietly. The holographic display in the center of the room came to life. It showed a section of space at the edge of the galaxy. A thick red line marked the boundary of the Sol quarantine zone. Inside that zone, a small yellow star burned. Around it, a single planet with blue oceans glowed softly. Earth, humanity's prison for the past 300 years. Except now, the prison was empty. Hundreds of ships poured out from the quarantine zone like water breaking through a dam. They moved faster than any vessel the Council had ever seen. The energy readings made no sense. Humanity had been barely capable of reaching their own moon when the Council had sealed them away. Now they traveled between stars as easily as breathing. "How is this possible?" Thexvara demanded. Her voice came out as a screech. "Our projections said they would not develop faster than light travel for another 800 years. "Clearly our projections were wrong," said Nereth, the Vice-Chancellor. She was a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "The question is not how. The question is what we do now." The hologram zoomed in on one of the human ships. It was smaller than council vessels, but moved with incredible precision. The design was strange, angular where council ships were smooth, aggressive where others were elegant. It looked like it had been built for war. "They have ignored all our messages," said Fleet Master Zendor, the military commander. He was a massive creature with 6 arms and thick armor plating. "We have transmitted on every known frequency. They do not respond." "Perhaps they cannot hear us," suggested another counselor. "They can hear us," Vormek said. His ancient eyes watched the ships carefully. "They choose not to answer." The hologram changed again. It showed a moon orbiting a gas giant in neutral space. The moon was a trading post, a place where different species met to exchange goods and information. It was neutral territory protected by council law. No one could claim it. But humanity was claiming it now. The human ships descended on the moon like a swarm. Within hours, they had set up structures on the surface. Lights appeared. Power generators hummed to life. Communications towers reached toward the sky. What should have taken weeks happened in a single day. "This is an invasion," Thexvara said. She stood up, her wings spreading wide. "We must respond with force. Send the fleet. Drive them back to their zone. And if they do not go," Nereth asked calmly, "then we make them go." Vormek raised one clawed hand. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the High Chancellor's word was law. He had led the Council for 3 centuries. He had been the one to order humanity's quarantine in the first place. "Tell me about the humans," he said to the room. "What do we know?" An intelligence officer stepped forward. His name was Krelvas, and he belonged to a species known for their perfect memory. "They are violent," he began. "In their short history, they have fought thousands of wars. They have created weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. They kill their own kind over resources, over ideas, over land. They are unstable, unpredictable, and dangerous. But they are also innovative," Nereth added. "They went from basic tools to space travel in only 10,000 years. Most species take 100,000. They solve problems other species cannot imagine. That makes them more dangerous, not less," Thexvara argued. The hologram shifted once more. It showed a single human vessel separating from the others. This ship was different, sleeker, with diplomatic markings along its hull. It moved slowly toward the council station, broadcasting a simple message in perfect galactic standard. "We wish to talk." The council chamber erupted in noise. Some counselors shouted that it was a trick. Others demanded to know how humans had learned their language. Vormek listened to all of them, his tail still moving back and forth. "They will have weapons," Thexvara said. "This is obviously a military strategy. If they wanted to attack us, they would have done so already," Nereth pointed out. "They have the advantage of surprise. They have technology we do not understand. Yet they ask to talk. Because they are clever, Thexavara insisted. They want to get close to us. Vormek stood. His old bones creaked, but his voice was strong. We will meet with them, here on this station, under full security protocols. I will hear what they have to say. High Chancellor, I must protest. Your protest is noted, Counselor Thexavara. Vormek's eyes glowed softly. But I have not maintained peace in this galaxy for 300 years by refusing to listen. Prepare a meeting chamber. Bring the humans here. The diplomatic vessel docked 2 hours later. Security teams surrounded it, their weapons ready. The airlock opened slowly. 3 humans stepped out into the council station for the first time in history. The leader was a woman named Jiwan. She was tall for a human, with dark hair pulled back from her face. She wore a simple uniform with no weapons visible. Her eyes moved across the council's security forces without fear. Behind her stood 2 others, a man named Hyon who carried data equipment and a woman named Yunji who held a portable laboratory kit. Ambassador Jiwan, said the security chief, you will follow us to the meeting chamber. You will not deviate from the path. You will not touch anything. Do you understand? Jiwan smiled. It was a human expression that showed teeth which made several guards nervous. We understand perfectly, she said in flawless galactic standard. We are grateful for your hospitality. We have waited a long time for this moment. As they walked through the station's corridors, Jiwan looked at everything with intense curiosity. She seemed to memorize every detail, every door, every intersection. Hyon did the same, his eyes recording everything. Tell me, Jiwan said to the security chief, how long did you think you could keep us locked away? The security chief did not answer. 300 years is a long time to watch from the outside, Jiwan continued. Long enough to learn your languages. Long enough to study your technology. Long enough to decide we would not accept our cage any longer. They reached the meeting chamber. Inside, the entire Galactic Council waited. 47 species, thousands of years of combined history, all staring at 3 humans who should not have been there. Jiwan walked to the center of the room. She did not bow. She did not show fear. She looked directly at High Chancellor Vormek and spoke clearly. Humanity thanks the Council for finally agreeing to meet. We have much to discuss. But first, let me be clear about one thing. She paused, making sure every counselor heard her next words. We will not be going back to the quarantine zone. That part of our history is over. We are here now, and we are here to stay. The silence in the council chamber lasted for exactly 17 seconds. Then every counselor began talking at once. Voices rose in anger and fear and confusion. Thexavara's feathers stood completely upright now. Her sharp voice cut through the noise. You have no right to make demands here, she said. You are quarantined for the safety of the entire galaxy. You are a violent species. You cannot be trusted. Jiwan turned to face the avian counselor. Her expression remained calm. We were quarantined without trial, without representation, without even being asked our opinion. You made us prisoners simply because you were afraid of what we might become. With good reason, Thexavara shot back. Your history speaks for itself. War after war, destruction, chaos. Yes, Jiwan agreed simply.
We have fought wars.
We have made terrible mistakes, but we have also learned from them. Can you say the same? How many of your species still remember what it means to struggle, to adapt, to survive against impossible odds? Vormek raised his hand again. The room quieted. You speak our language perfectly, how? Jiwan gestured to Hyon, who activated his data equipment. A holographic display appeared showing radio waves and signals. For 300 years we have listened to your broadcasts. We picked up every transmission that crossed our quarantine zone. We learned your languages, your customs, your history. We studied you while you ignored us. That is impossible, said Fleet Master Zendor. The quarantine field blocks all signals. It blocks signals going out. Hyon spoke for the first time. His voice was steady and confident. It does not block signals coming in. An oversight on your part. One of many we have discovered. Murmurs spread through the council. This was disturbing news. If humans had been listening for centuries, what else did they know? Yunji stepped forward, carrying her laboratory kit. She set it on a table and opened it. Inside were samples and data screens. We would like to share something with the council. Information about human biology. We know about your biology, Thexavara said dismissively. You are fragile. You live short lives. You need very specific conditions to survive. That is where you are wrong, Yunji replied. She activated the data screens. They showed images of humans in various environments. Humans can survive in temperatures from far below freezing to extreme heat. We can eat thousands of different food sources. We can adapt to different air pressures, different gravity levels, different radiation exposures. Our bodies heal from injuries that would kill most species here. She brought up more images. We can go days without water, weeks without food. We can survive in deserts, in frozen wastelands, in deep oceans, in thin mountain air. Some humans have even survived in the vacuum of space for short periods. We are not fragile, Counselor. We are the most adaptable species in the known galaxy. The council members looked at each other. This information was troubling. Most species could only survive on worlds very similar to their home planets. Humans were claiming they could live almost anywhere. Even if this is true, Neerith said thoughtfully, it does not explain your technology. How did you develop faster than light travel so quickly? Ji-won smiled again. Necessity. When you are trapped in a box, you find ways to break out. We could not accept being prisoners forever. So we worked. We experimented. We failed many times, but we never stopped trying. That is what humans do. We do not accept limits. You should accept some limits, Thexvara said coldly. You are 3 humans on a station with thousands of council security forces. You are hundreds of ships facing a fleet of millions. You are 1 species against 47. You have no leverage here. Ji-won's smile did not fade. Instead, she touched a device on her wrist. Actually, we do. Outside the station, something extraordinary happened. Every human ship in the area suddenly vanished. They did not move away slowly. They simply disappeared. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. Council sensors went wild trying to locate them. Then, one by one, the ships reappeared. But they were no longer in the same place. They had spread across council space, appearing near major worlds, near military bases, near trade routes. Hundreds of human ships now positioned throughout the entire galaxy, all having moved at the exact same moment. Then, just as suddenly, they all jumped back to their original positions. The entire maneuver took less than 1 minute. The council chamber fell completely silent. What they had just witnessed was impossible. That level of coordination required computational power beyond anything the council possessed. It required navigation systems that could calculate countless jumps simultaneously. It required technology they could not even begin to understand. That, Ji-won said quietly, is leverage. Formek leaned forward in his seat. His old eyes studied the human ambassador carefully. You are demonstrating your military capability. You want us to know you could strike anywhere in council space before we could respond. No, Ji-won corrected him. We are demonstrating that we will not be contained. We will not be controlled. We will not go back to our prison. But notice something, High Chancellor. We did not fire a single weapon. We did not threaten any world. We simply showed you what we can do, and what we choose not to do. Neerith spoke up, her crystalline form glowing brighter. You speak of choice, of restraint. But why should we believe you? Why should we trust a species we barely know? You should not trust us, Ji-won replied honestly. Not yet. Trust must be earned on both sides. We are not asking for trust. We are asking for the chance to prove ourselves. We want to trade with council species. We want to share technology. We want to explore the galaxy alongside you, not hidden away from it. And if we refuse, Thexvara demanded. Ji-won looked directly at her. Then we will explore anyway. We will trade with whoever wishes to trade with us. We will establish our own territories in neutral space. We will build our own future, with or without council approval. The only question is whether the council wants to be part of that future. Fleetmaster Zendor stood up, all 6 of his arms crossed. You speak boldly for someone who is outnumbered. Yes, Ji-won agreed. But being outnumbered has never stopped humans before. It did not stop us when we climbed out of caves to explore our world. It did not stop us when we reached for the stars despite having no idea what was out there. It will not stop us now. Hyun added another display to the hologram. It showed human history compressed into a few minutes. Wars, yes, but also art, music, science, exploration, images of humans helping each other, building together, creating wonders. We are not perfect, he said, but we are capable of great things when we work together. Imagine what we could accomplish working with 47 other species. Yoonji stepped forward again. We have brought gifts, technologies we are willing to share immediately, as a sign of good faith. She produced several data drives. Compact fusion reactors that are safer and more efficient than current Council designs. Medical treatments that could save millions of lives. Agricultural techniques that could feed hungry worlds. We offer these freely. Thexvara made a sound of disgust. This is bribery? No, Neerith said slowly. This is diplomacy. They are showing us they come in peace. Vormek had remained quiet throughout most of the exchange. Now he spoke, his ancient voice filling the chamber. 300 years ago, I gave the order to quarantine humanity. I did so because our prophecies warned us of a violent species that would spread across the galaxy like fire. I believed I was protecting the Council, protecting the peace we had built over thousands of years. He stood slowly, his old body moving with difficulty. But perhaps I was wrong. Perhaps I was not protecting the Council. Perhaps I was only protecting the Council from change. High Chancellor, Thexvara began. Vormek held up his hand. We will adjourn for now. The Council must discuss this matter in private. Ambassador Jiwan, you and your colleagues will be given quarters on this station. You will not be harmed. You have my word. Jiwan bowed her head slightly. It was a gesture of respect but not submission. Thank you, High Chancellor. We will wait for your decision. But understand this. While we wait, more human ships are leaving Earth. More of our people are spreading across the stars. Every day you delay is another day we establish ourselves in the galaxy. The quarantine is over. The only question now is what comes next. The Council meetings continued for 3 days. During that time, humanity did not wait. More ships poured out of Earth's system. They spread across neutral territories, setting up outposts, establishing communications networks, making their presence impossible to ignore. The Council could no longer pretend this was a small problem that would go away. On the 4th day, Thexvara convinced a coalition of isolationist counselors to take action. They sent military vessels to surround the human positions. It was meant to be a show of force, a reminder that the Council still held power. Fleetmaster Zendor advised against it, but he was overruled by political pressure. Captain Minho commanded the human fleet from his flagship. He watched the Council vessels approach on his tactical display. There were 50 Council ships surrounding 20 human vessels. On paper, it should have been an easy victory for the Council. But Minho had spent his entire career preparing for exactly this moment. All ships. Execute pattern Delta 7, he said calmly into his communicator. The human ships scattered in seemingly random directions. The Council vessels tried to maintain their formation, but the humans moved too fast, too unpredictably. They used the gravitational fields of nearby planets to slingshot themselves into new positions. They hid behind asteroids, then emerged, firing not weapons but sensor jamming signals that confused Council targeting systems. Commander Dayun coordinated the tactical response from her position on Minho's ship. She had studied Council military doctrine for years. She knew they fought with honor, following strict rules of engagement. Humans had no such restrictions. They fought to win. Council vessels are trying to box us in, Dayun reported, shifting to guerrilla formation 3. The human ships moved like a school of fish, each one independent, but moving as part of a larger pattern. When Council vessels pursued one ship, 3 others would appear behind them. When they tried to spread out to cover more space, the humans would concentrate their forces and break through the line. No shots were fired. No one was hurt. But the message was clear. The Council could not contain humanity through military force alone. After 6 hours of this cat-and-mouse game, Fleetmaster Zendor called off the operation. He returned to the Council station, his pride wounded, but his respect for human tactics growing. While the military confrontation played out in space, something else was happening on Council worlds. Human civilian ships had begun arriving at trading ports. They brought goods that Council species had never seen before. Strange foods, unusual tools, beautiful art, and most surprisingly, human entertainment. A merchant named Sora set up a trading post on a busy commercial station. She was young and energetic, with a gift for languages and an infectious enthusiasm. She offered human music to anyone who would listen. She showed human films. She sold human books translated into Galactic Standard. At first, most Council species ignored her. But the younger generation, especially those who had grown tired of the same old Council entertainment, found the human offerings fascinating. Human music had rhythms and emotions that touched something deep inside them. Human stories dealt with themes of struggle and triumph that resonated with anyone who had ever faced difficulty. Within a week, Sora's trading post had a line of customers every day. Within 2 weeks, other human merchants had set up similar posts on a dozen different stations. The Council's official warnings against human contact were being ignored by ordinary citizens who simply wanted something new and exciting. Back on the Council station, the political situation was deteriorating. The councilors had split into clear factions. Thexvara led the isolationists, who still insisted that humanity must be returned to quarantine by any means necessary. They saw humans as an existential threat to council order. Neareth led a smaller group of pragmatists who believed that integration was inevitable and that fighting it would only make things worse. They argued for controlled diplomatic engagement, for setting boundaries and rules that humans would have to follow. A third faction, the opportunists, saw potential benefits in allying with humanity. They were impressed by human technology and believed that trading with humans could make their own species wealthy and powerful. They did not care about principles. They cared about advantage. High Chancellor Vormek remained neutral, watching all three factions argue. He had seen political conflicts before, but never one quite like this. The unity of the Council, maintained for thousands of years, was fracturing before his eyes. In the midst of all this chaos, an intelligence officer named Krelvas made a disturbing discovery. He had been researching the origins of the human quarantine, trying to understand why it had been imposed in the first place. The official record said it was due to human violence and instability. But as Krelvas dug deeper into ancient archives, he found something else. There was a prophecy, an old one, dating back to the founding of the Council itself. It spoke of a species that would emerge at the edge of the galaxy, a species that refused to follow the natural order, a species that would challenge everything the Council believed. But the prophecy was not a warning. It was a prediction. It said that when this species arrived, the Council would face a choice: embrace change and grow stronger, or resist change and slowly die. The prophecy had been buried, hidden away by counselors who saw it as dangerous. 12,000 years ago, a species very similar to humans had appeared in Council space. They were innovative, aggressive, and refused to accept Council authority. They had nearly started a galactic war. The Council had destroyed them completely, wiping out every trace of their civilization. And then the Council had made a decision. If another species like that ever appeared, they would be quarantined immediately before they could become a threat. That species had been human. Krelvas brought this information to High Chancellor Vormek in private. The old reptilian read through the ancient records with growing concern. "This changes everything," he said quietly. The quarantine was never about protecting humans. It was about protecting the Council from what humans represent. Change, Krelvas said. Evolution, a challenge to the status quo. Yes, Vormek agreed. And we have spent 300 years trying to prevent the inevitable. Before they could discuss it further, alarms began blaring throughout the station. Something had attacked a human colony ship, a vessel carrying families, including children, traveling through neutral space toward a new settlement world. Isolationist forces had fired on it without warning, attempting to destroy it and send a message to all humans that they were not welcome. Captain Minho received the distress call within seconds. His face went cold. Commander Dayun began calculating firing solutions immediately. The human fleet moved with terrifying speed and precision. They reached the isolationist attack force in minutes. The isolationist ships were still firing on the colony vessel, which was trying desperately to escape. Its shields were failing. It would not last much longer. Minho did not hesitate. All ships, disable them. Target engines and weapons only. No casualties. The human fleet struck like a surgical blade. Every shot was perfectly placed. Within 30 seconds, every isolationist vessel was floating dead in space, their engines destroyed, their weapons offline, but their life support intact. Not a single crew member on either side was killed. The colony ship was saved. Minho's fleet escorted it safely to its destination, but the message they sent was far more powerful than any weapon. Humans could have destroyed the isolationist force completely. They could have taken revenge. Instead, they showed mercy. When news of the incident spread across the galaxy, reactions were mixed. Some saw it as proof of human superiority. Others saw it as frightening restraint. How could anyone fight an enemy? Who could destroy you but chose not to? It was psychological warfare of the highest order. Thexvara was furious. Her isolationist faction had been humiliated. But more than that, they had lost the moral high ground. They had attacked civilians. Humans had defended those civilians while sparing their attackers. In the eyes of many, Council species, the roles of aggressor and defender had reversed. In her quarters on the Council station, Ambassador Jiwan received a private message from High Chancellor Vormek. It requested a private meeting. No guards, no witnesses, just two leaders trying to find a path forward. Jiwan accepted immediately. The meeting took place in a small private chamber deep within the Council station. No guards stood outside. No recording devices captured their words. It was just Jiwan and Vormek, face to face, leader to leader. The High Chancellor looked tired. 300 years of life had worn on him, but this crisis had aged him even more in just a few days. "Do you know why I really quarantined your species?" Vormek asked without preamble. "Fear," Jiwan replied simply. "Yes, but not the kind of fear you think." Vormek accessed a holographic display and showed her the ancient prophecy. He showed her the records of the species that had come before, the ones the Council had destroyed. He held nothing back. We were afraid that history would repeat itself, that we would face another war that would tear the galaxy apart. Jiwan read through the information carefully. Her expression remained neutral, but her eyes showed understanding. "So you locked us away before we could become a threat. You made us prisoners for crimes we had not committed yet." "Yes," Vormek admitted. "It was wrong. I see that now. But at the time it seemed like the only choice. The Council had just emerged from a dark age. We had finally achieved peace. I could not risk losing that. Peace built on fear is not really peace," Jiwan said quietly. "It is just a pause between conflicts." Vormek nodded slowly. "You are right. And now that pause is ending. The question is, what happens next? Your captain's restraint today impressed many counselors, but it also frightened them. You could have killed those who attacked you, but you did not. Why? Because we are not the species you fear," Jiwan explained. "Yes, we have fought wars. Yes, we can be violent when necessary. But we have also learned that violence is not the answer to every problem. We choose to show mercy because we want to prove we can be trusted. We want to show that we are not monsters." "But you could be," Vormek pointed out. "If you chose to be, so could you," Jiwan countered. "Any species with advanced technology could be monsters if they chose to be. The Council has weapons that could destroy entire worlds, but you do not use them. Why? Because you have morals, values, a sense of right and wrong. Humans have those things too." Before Vormek could respond, alarms sounded again throughout the station. But these alarms were different. They were not warnings of attack. They were warnings of something far worse. Ancient defense systems at the edge of the galaxy had activated. Systems that had been dormant for 12,000 years, since the last time a species like humanity had appeared. The Sentinels had awakened. Every screen in the station showed the same image. Massive mechanical constructs, each one the size of a moon, moving toward Council space. They were ancient beyond measure, built by a civilization that no longer existed. Their purpose was simple and terrible. They had been created to destroy the violent ones before they could spread across the galaxy, and they had detected humanity's signature. High Chancellor Vormek and Ambassador Jiwan rushed to the main Council chamber together. Every counselor was already there, staring at the displays in horror. Thexvara's feathers had gone pale. Even Neareth's crystalline form had dimmed with shock. "How many?" Fleet Master Zendor demanded. 12 confirmed, came the response from a sensor technician. "They are moving at sublight speed, but they will reach Council space within 2 weeks. They are heading straight for the most densely populated sectors." "What are their capabilities?" asked Captain Minho. He had been summoned to the Council chamber along with Commander Daeun and Engineer Hyun. "Unknown," Zendor admitted. "These machines are older than the Council itself. Our records about them are incomplete." We know they destroyed the previous violent species completely. We know they cannot be reasoned with. They follow their programming absolutely. Hyon was already working on his portable computer, analyzing the Sentinel data. His fingers moved rapidly across the interface. Their movement patterns are predictable, he said. They follow strict mathematical formulas. See here and here. These are not random courses. They are calculated paths designed for maximum efficiency. Can we stop them? Formek asked. Not with conventional weapons, Zendor said grimly. Our simulations show that even our most powerful weapons would barely scratch their surface. They are designed to withstand anything a species like humanity could throw at them 12,000 years ago, and they have only gotten stronger since then. But they are old, Dayon pointed out. Old means outdated. Their programming cannot account for modern technology. If we can understand their patterns, we can predict their movements. And if we can predict their movements, we can find their weaknesses. Thexvara made a sound of disbelief. You think you can defeat machines that destroyed an entire civilization? I think we have to try, Dayon replied. Because if we do not, they will destroy all of us, humans and council species alike. For the first time since the crisis began, the council chamber fell completely silent. Every species present understood the truth. The argument about whether humans should be integrated or quarantined did not matter anymore. The Sentinels would kill everyone unless they worked together. Neareth spoke first. We must pool our resources. Human computational abilities combined with Council technological database. Human tactical innovation combined with Council manufacturing capacity. We cannot defeat them separately. We must work as one. I agree, said Vormek. Fleetmaster Zendor, you will coordinate with Captain Minho. Share all military resources. Engineer Hyon, you will have access to our technical archives. Ambassador Jiwan, I am authorizing full cooperation between our species. Even Thexavara did not object. The threat was too great. Pride and politics meant nothing in the face of extinction. Over the next 10 days, humans and council species worked together in ways they never had before. Hyon and council engineers analyzed the Sentinels' programming, finding patterns in their behavior. Minho and Zendor developed battle strategies that combined human unpredictability with council firepower. Scientists from a dozen species worked with Dr. Taejin, a human physicist, to understand the Sentinels' power sources. But the Sentinels were coming faster than expected. They had detected the military preparations and had increased their speed. They would reach a heavily populated council world called Sarath in just 3 days. Sarath had 2 billion inhabitants. It could not be evacuated in time. The combined fleet took up positions around Sarath. 50 council vessels and 30 human ships faced 12 approaching Sentinels. The odds were not good, but they had one advantage. They had Hyon's analysis. The Sentinels move in perfect coordination, he explained to the fleet commanders. They share information instantaneously. If we can disrupt that communication, even for a moment, they will falter. Their programming will force them to recalculate. And recalculation takes time. How do we disrupt their communication? Zendor asked. We confuse them, Minho said with a slight smile. We make them see threats where there are none. We make them question their own data. We make them hesitate. The Sentinels arrived at Sarath 3 days later. They emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, their massive forms blocking out the stars. They began charging their weapons, preparing to sterilize the planet below. The combined fleet struck immediately. Human ships darted between the Sentinels, firing not weapons but sensor disruption signals. Council vessels launched drones that mimicked human energy signatures. The Sentinels' targeting systems went haywire, trying to process contradictory information. For 3 seconds, the Sentinels paused. It was enough. A young human pilot named Jamin saw an opening. One of the Sentinels had exposed its power core while recalculating its position. Without hesitation, Jamin aimed his ship directly at that opening. He knew he would not survive, but his action would give the fleet time to evacuate a transport ship full of civilians that was caught too close to the battle. This is for everyone down there, he transmitted calmly. Then his ship struck the Sentinel's core at full speed. The explosion was massive. The Sentinel's power systems overloaded, creating a chain reaction. The ancient machine shattered into pieces. The other Sentinels, linked to the destroyed one, experienced cascading failures in their coordination systems. The fleet pressed their advantage. With the Sentinels disoriented, Human and Council forces working in perfect synchronization managed to destroy 3 more of the ancient machines. The remaining Sentinels, following their damaged programming, retreated to regroup. Sarath was saved. 2 billion lives continued because humans and Council species worked together. Because a human pilot had sacrificed himself to save Council civilians. Because when faced with a common threat, old fears and prejudices had been set aside. The news of the battle spread across the galaxy within hours. Images of Jamin's sacrifice played on every screen on every world. A human giving his life to save Council civilians. It changed everything. The debate about whether humans were dangerous became a debate about whether the Council deserved such allies. The remaining Sentinels had retreated, but they would return. Everyone knew it. The first battle had been won, but the war was not over. The combined human and Council forces had 2 weeks, maybe 3, before the Sentinels regrouped and attacked again. This time, they would be prepared for the tactics that had defeated them before. Engineer Hyon worked without sleep, analyzing the wreckage of the destroyed Sentinels. He found something interesting. The machines were powerful, yes, but they were also limited. They could only process information in certain ways. They could not adapt beyond their original programming. That was their weakness. "We can beat them," Jan reported to the Joint Command Center, "but we need to move fast. We need to build weapons specifically designed to exploit their limitations. We need to combine human innovation with Council manufacturing, and we need to do it in less than 3 weeks." What followed was the most intense period of cooperation the galaxy had ever seen. Human engineers worked alongside Council technicians. Human scientists shared their theories with Council researchers. Merchant Sora's trading networks became supply lines, moving materials and components between human and Council worlds faster than anyone thought possible. Dr. Yunji made a breakthrough in understanding how the Sentinels identified their targets. They detected specific genetic markers, specific patterns of technology use, but those markers could be masked, hidden, confused. With Council biological expertise and human adaptability, they developed countermeasures that would make both species invisible to Sentinel sensors. Captain Minho and Fleet Master Zendor spent hours planning the next engagement. They argued about tactics, about strategies, about risks, but through those arguments they developed a mutual respect. Zendor learned to appreciate human flexibility and creativity. Minho learned to value Council discipline and coordination. In the Council chambers, High Chancellor Vormek called for a historic vote. "The quarantine of humanity is officially ended," he announced. Humanity will be offered full membership in the Galactic Council as the 48th species. They will have all rights and responsibilities that come with that membership. Thexvara stood to object, but then she sat down again. She had seen Yamin's sacrifice. She had watched humans and Council species working together to save Sarath. She could not deny the truth anymore. Humans were not the enemy. They never had been. "I withdraw my objections," she said quietly. "Humanity has proven themselves worthy of trust." The vote was unanimous. For the first time in 300 years, humanity was officially part of the galactic community. But Ambassador Jiwan had conditions of her own. "We accept membership," she told the Council, "but we require certain changes to Council law. First, no species may ever be quarantined again without their consent and without clear evidence of actual harm, not just potential harm. Second, Council exploration policies must become more open to risk-taking and innovation. Third, individual freedom must be recognized as a fundamental right for all species." These were radical suggestions. The Council had operated under the same basic laws for thousands of years. But Neereth supported Jiwan's proposals. "She is right," the crystalline being said. "We have become stagnant. We have prioritized stability over growth. Humanity reminds us that progress requires risk. Change requires courage." One by one, other councilors agreed. The Council began the process of restructuring its laws. It would take time, but the foundation was laid. The galaxy was changing, and for the first time in millennia it was changing for the better. The Sentinels returned 18 days later. But this time the galaxy was ready. The combined fleet had grown to include volunteers from every Council species, ships from 48 different civilizations, all working together under joint human and Council command. The battle was fierce and costly. 3 Council worlds were evacuated. Dozens of ships were destroyed on both sides. But the new weapons worked. The countermeasures held, and most importantly, The coordination between human and council forces was perfect. They fought as one fleet, not as separate species. After 2 weeks of continuous engagement, the last sentinel was destroyed. The threat was finally over. But the cost had been high. Thousands had died. Millions had been displaced. It would take years to rebuild everything that had been lost. In the aftermath, the galaxy mourned together. Memorial services were held on every world. Jamin's name was spoken alongside the names of council soldiers who had fallen. There was no distinction made between human and alien casualties. They were all heroes. They had all sacrificed for the same cause. Ambassador Jiwan became the first human high counselor in a special election. Her first act was to establish the Gemin Initiative, named after the fallen pilot. It was a program designed to foster cooperation between species, to break down barriers, to ensure that the unity forged in crisis would not fade in peace. Captain Minho took command of the new Joint Defense Force, a combined military organization that reported to both human and council authorities. Commander Daeun became his second in command. Together, they began training a new generation of officers who understood both human tactics and council strategy. Engineer Hyun and Dr. Eunji founded the Institute for Advanced Research on Earth. It was the first facility where scientists from all council species could come to work together, to share ideas, to push the boundaries of what was possible. The Institute's motto was simple: no limits. Merchant Sora's trading network became the foundation for a new galactic economy. Human goods flowed to council worlds. Council technology reached human colonies. The barriers that had separated species for so long began to dissolve as ordinary citizens discovered they had more in common than they had differences. 1 year after the Sentinel War, the Galactic Council held its first meeting on Earth. Representatives from all 48 species walked through human cities, saw human art, ate human food, and met human citizens. Many were surprised by what they found. Humans were not the violent monsters they had feared. They were people just like everyone else. They had families. They had dreams. They wanted the same things all species wanted: safety, prosperity, and a chance to build a better future. The meeting took place in a massive chamber built specifically for this purpose. It had been designed by architects from 12 different species, blending styles and technologies in ways that had never been tried before. The result was beautiful, a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. High Chancellor Vormek, now in his 4th century of life, looked around the chamber with satisfaction. 300 years ago, I made a decision based on fear, he said in his opening address. I quarantined humanity because I was afraid of what they might become. I was wrong, not because humans are not capable of violence, they are, but because I failed to see that they were also capable of incredible courage, creativity, and compassion. They forced us to change. And in changing, we became stronger. Outside the chamber, in the garden surrounding the building, something remarkable was happening. Children from different species played together. A young human girl named Subin, daughter of the late pilot Jamin, ran through the gardens with her friends. They were from 6 different worlds, spoke 3 different languages, and looked nothing alike, but they laughed together, played together, and did not care about their differences. Subin stopped at a memorial wall that listed the names of all who had died in the Sentinel War. Her father's name was there, carved in stone alongside thousands of others. She touched the name gently, then saluted the way her father had taught her before he died. An alien child, a young being with crystalline skin like Neareth's species, approached her. Was that your father? The child asked in careful human language. My mother died in the war too, the crystalline child said. She was on one of the council ships. The 2 children looked at each other for a moment. Then Subin took the alien child's hand. They saved everyone, she said. They worked together, just like we can. They ran off to join their friends, leaving the adults to their politics and their speeches. The future, it seemed, would be shaped by children who did not remember the quarantine, who did not remember when humans and aliens were separate, who only knew a galaxy where everyone worked together. High Counselor Jiwan watched from a window in the chamber. She smiled at the sight of the children playing. Then she turned back to the assembly. There was still work to do. Laws to write, treaties to negotiate, problems to solve. But for the first time since humanity had broken free from their quarantine zone, she felt truly hopeful. The galaxy had changed. Humanity had forced that change by refusing to accept their prison. But in doing so, they had not destroyed the Council. They had saved it. They had reminded every species that progress requires risk, that growth requires change, and that the future belongs to those brave enough to reach for it. In the years that followed, human explorers would travel to the farthest reaches of the galaxy. They would discover new worlds, make contact with new species, and continue pushing boundaries.